Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm Blackbright, broadcasting out of the UK, around the world. Howdy do to you all, and I hope you are all well. Now, today's topic is about the DNA testing. They've stopped it now, not only after it's done a lot of damage, and they've got a new system coming out after Brexit. I wonder what that's going to look like. Anyway, while all of this has been going on, apparently they were DNA testing people, claiming that they needed to know that certain parents were actually, the father were actually belonging to the family that they had registered as coming in on behalf of, if that makes sense. So a lot of people, they had to have DNA tests with mothers and fathers and uncles and aunts to make sure that that was really an uncle, really an aunt, really the parent, really the father of a child, really the mother of a child. What they didn't take into account for is that we live in a disposable society. You know, people move around, it's very mobile, it's very transient, and it's very nomadic. And so a lot of people, when it came to, and these are people who were legally in the country beforehand, and they're applying for an extension. So they're legally in the country, they're working, they have their homes, they're stable. So now it's come to the point where they are now applying for an extension. And they are demanding, or they were demanding, 443 of them were demanding, they demanded their DNA test, demanded that they have DNA tests before their applications could be considered. And if they didn't produce the information within 4 weeks, it was rejected and refused. And these people had to hang around waiting for the result. The thing is that while they're waiting for the Home Office to give them the result, the thing is, while they're hanging around, which took months, they've lost their home, they've lost their job. And some of them, they can't even verify, because it's like if somebody said to me, oh, you have to get hold of your first husband, so because we need his DNA for your daughter. How the hell am I supposed to know where he is? It's not like I'm keeping in touch. You know, we're all adults, the kids are adults. Why would I be in touch with that person? And similarly, when relationships break down, why would you be in touch with somebody that you've broken up with? But they're claiming that if you haven't got the DNA of the mother or the father or whoever, that is a reason for them not granting you an extension of your visa. They didn't take it into account when they're dealing with families that the parent, you know, not the parents, but the people they're associated with might have died. You know, it's a real sham, and you can tell it's targeted at a certain sector of people. It's also aimed at, you know, very archaic, man, wife, 2 children. It's not taking into account how people, you know, one woman could have 3 kids with 3 different fathers. A man can have kids all over the place, especially in the Caribbean and African communities. I don't know about any other communities, but you can have children all over the place. You could have been married 2 or 3 times. You could, you know what I mean? It's not as easy to get hold of people who you've had some kind of relationship with. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that you're committing a fraud. It doesn't mean that you've told lies. And if you are worried about it, why don't you go to the job centre? If you're worried about people claiming for people that don't exist, or people using different people to pass their driving tests and all that kind of stuff, why don't you, if you've got a suspicion about someone, why don't you investigate that individual? Why are you doing a blanket thing and forcing people to take a DNA test? Otherwise, you're not granting them their extension. especially when they've been here legally. We're not talking about illegal immigrants, you know. We're talking about those with not indefinite, discretionary leave to remain, probably for up to 5 years. They're applying for their extension and they're being refused because of the DNA, not being able to have DNA evidence. It's absolutely atrocious. I think 400 applicants were sent a letter asking to provide DNA evidence, and if they didn't provide it without reasonable excuse, their applications would be refused on suitability grounds. To me, that sounds like a threat. And when I'm giving these numbers, I'm normally getting it from The Guardian, I get it from Independent, and I get it from the Financial Times. So my sources are pretty credible. I mean, I'm not just picking them out of a hat. 51 applicants had to pay for their own DNA. Now, I don't know how much it costs for a DNA test, but, you know, you have to pay for your own. Bloody cheek. The government is so mistrustful and suspicious. You know, any little thing, they just run with it without no forethought about the implications and the impact it has on innocent people. They say the claim's going to take 3 or 4 days, but they don't take into account the complications of when people can't get hold of somebody. And I think if they think that somebody can't get hold of them, they think, oh, there's something dodgy going on. They can't think that genuinely a person has got lost touch. And if that relationship is broken down, it's not all relationships that maintain good relationships. Sometimes you don't talk to that person. Sometimes that person leaves the country. You can't be accountable for people's movements. Remember, while this process is going on, an applicant can't work. Oh, I tell you something. It just seems to me like, I'm not going to belabor this point, but it just seems to me that everybody's guilty. Every immigrant or every person that's applying to enter the UK is considered guilty until they prove themselves innocent. You know, they're illegal until they can prove that they are legal. It shouldn't be that way around. Everybody should be considered innocent until proven guilty. But it's not the way in the UK, is it? Anyway, short and sweet. I've done a couple of long videos recently, so I'm going to try and keep them shorter now. Bye-bye.